every time when I film a video, he wants out. Hey everyone, this is Video Game Lover here, and finally I am going to do the games I beat video for the month of September. Sorry for the long delay, but I beat only 8 games, and most of them are Genesis games to Super Nintendo games to even Game Gear games. So, first game that I beat for the month of September was El Viento for the Sega Genesis. This is part of the Ernest Evans trilogy. There's a third game for the Sega CD, and I heard it wasn't all that good, but El Viento is a really solid game for the Sega Genesis. Very good action game. My only issue I have with the game is it's a little too fast-paced. The game kind of moves so fast, it's very easy to make mistakes, run into a bunch of enemies, and die a lot. And the last level is pretty damn hard. But El Viento is a really solid game with great music. It's definitely the best of the Ernest Evans trilogy, and it's funny that the first game of the trilogy was its best entry. So, Ernest Evans, great game. Next game that I finished was Lethal Enforcers for the Super Nintendo. I decided to play that version instead of the Genesis version. I actually like the Super Nintendo version much more. It just plays a little bit better with the controller than what it is on the Genesis version. So, I like Lethal Enforcers more on Super Nintendo than on the Genesis. Even though I do think 2's a little bit better, but that's just my personal opinion. Beat 2 more Genesis games. I beat Felios for the Sega Genesis. And let me tell you something about this game. It's a damn hard game. Like, I didn't think Felios was going to be that hard, but no, it's a really, really hard freaking game. That is a really tough shmup on the Genesis. Bosses take a lot of bullets. I know they're gods, but it's almost like I'm facing Terminators. Best way to kill them fast is to keep using your charge shots. But Felios, pretty solid shmup. Not the best that the Genesis has to offer, but still a good game though. I also finished Rambo 3 for the Genesis, a pretty basic run and gun game. Nothing really all that special, but considering all the other Rambo games that came out before this is probably the best one. It's not a bad game, nothing very special, but nothing bad. Still a decent game. And I finished Hook on the Sega Game Gear, and if you get used to the sword combat of Hook, it's actually a fun game. Can be a little bit tricky at times with certain platforming, but I actually had a good time with Hook on the Game Gear. It's pretty short, like about a half hour, but really fun game for the Sega Game Gear. I really enjoy that game a lot, and one I actually recommend. The next game I finished was the SpongeBob movie on the PS2. This was the second SpongeBob game made by Heavy Iron Studios, the same people that did Battle for Bikini Bottom and Truth or Square. This is a good game, but it is a very, very frustrating game, and I am shocked of how hard this game is. There's a lot of very tough levels in this game, and very excruciating slide levels and platforming levels. I'm shocked that I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of kids that play this game probably broke their controllers, because I'm stunned at how hard this game was. Like, this is a really tough game, but nonetheless, still a good game, really difficult, definitely the hardest of the 3 in my personal opinion, but still a good game for the PS2. I enjoyed it for what it is. And now the last 2 games I beat are on the PSP. I finished Little Big Planet on the PSP. Now, one thing that's really interesting that I had no idea about, this game is actually its own game. I thought this was just a port of the PS3 game, but no, this is technically a sequel. It's by its own self game, and it's pretty good for what it is. It's still a really short game. You can beat this in like 2.5 to 3 hours, but it's still a really fun game, and mainly, obviously, the main mechanic of this game is you can create levels. But really fun game for the PSP. Really relaxing game, and I definitely needed this after playing the SpongeBob movie. And last but not least, Palapon 2 for the PSP. As I mentioned in the pickup video, I've been having a hard time beating the first game. But honestly, it's now my fault because I didn't know you can make rarer pawns. All you gotta do is just get rid of your weaker Patapon and then have a bunch of rare pawns. Now I have some more rarer pawns and I should be able to beat the game now. But Patapon 2, in my opinion, is much better because it's nowhere near as frustrating as the first game. It's much easier to upgrade Patapon. Still grinding though, but it's still a really good game. I did play the third game, and I did not like that game at all. I hated Patapon 3. So I recommend playing just the first 2 Patapons on the PSP. But yeah, that's all the games I finished for the month of September. I already finished 2 games for the month of October. I'm going to try to see if I can beat 10 games this month. It's going to be a little bit tricky. But anyways, guys, see y'all in my next video. Video Game Lover 58, sign out. Peace.